Blah.
We know that Glenn Danzig is a lot of things, guys. He is a lot of things. He's a musician. He's a singer. He's a songwriter. He plays guitar, bass, drums. He plays the piano. He's a composer. He is a writer. He is a director. He is an actor. He was a record label owner and runner. He's a graphic artist. He's a photographer. And he does illustration. He runs a comic book company. He's an art dealer. For better or for worse, he does it all. It's really kind of weird to think that Glenn Danzig was also a movie critic. That's right. Glenn Danzig, for a period of time in the early 80s, wrote these tiny little movie blurb reviews for Flipside Magazine.
If you don't know what this one is, what the fuck you doing here?
I love Day of the Dead. I love Day of the Dead for so many reasons, and I'm shuddering as I think, what does Glenn Danzig think of Day of the Dead? He writes, supposedly the sequel to end all sequels. Don't bet on it. Built for years by Romero to be the Living Dead film to end all Living Dead films. The dead will finally meet the living in one giant battle for control of the earth. Too bad that's not what this film was about. Dawn of the Dead was epic compared to this. Again, we get a handful of individuals in isolation fending off the dead. The special effects were good, but someone should tell Savini that dried up reanimated corpses do not bleed profusely when vivisected. No plot and the laughable dialogue. This was the biggest disappointment of the year. Beware. There will most definitely be a sequel. So Glenn was wrong for so many reasons in regards to this movie. First of all, I'm shocked that he's like bummed out about like he's like, yeah, there's good gore, but like not like nothing satisfies him. Like, come on, dude. You know, Glenn 3 years ago or 2 years ago would be like, yeah, it's great. There's all this gore. Go see it. You know, and now it's all of a sudden it's about plot and story. So, you know, he can never win. I think ultimately he spent years reading about Day of the Dead and what Romero had planned for Day of the Dead initially and was super let down by what he got. Because here's the truth. The version that Romero wanted to make versus the version that Romero got to make are two completely different scales and scopes. He had such an epic, huge thing planned for Day of the Dead. It was so much bigger. It involved training the zombies as well and yada, yada, yada. And there's these zombies in orange jumpsuits that are trained to be in this army. And lots of details leaked. And then what happened was his budget got cut in half. And he was forced to rewrite the movie to make sense for the budget that he has. Now, I heard something very interesting from Mark Duplass, and I think totally agree with it. And I think this is how anybody should approach production. Are you an artist? You're going to appreciate this. Ready? Mark Duplass was mentoring this person for a micro-budget film. They had $50,000. But the script was written to be like a $250,000 film. And you ask, well, how do you qualify that? You just do. There are ways. You just take a look. You budget everything. You look at what is in the script and you go, oh, okay, this cannot be done for any less than this amount of money. And so Mark Duplass said one of the most brilliant things that he could have said to this young up-and-coming filmmaker. He said, here's what you're going to do. The movie that you have written on the page right now is a $250,000 movie. All you have is $50,000. I want you to go back and rewrite this script so that it can be made for $25,000, right? She's basically telling him to rewrite the script so that it can be made with 1/10 of the money. And then we're going to give you $50,000. So that your $25,000 project looks like it had double the money thrown at it. And what that is right there, what I just explained, that's budgeting. And that's kind of what Romero had to deal with when he was rewriting Day of the Dead. He had to scale everything back, and that's what happens. But what we ended up getting was such a tense, just scathing commentary, but super tense civilians versus the army in this bunker, a race for time. to figure out a solution to a problem that is frankly unsolvable. When the dead have a ratio, as Dr. Logan Frankenstein says in the film, the ratio of dead to living is 1 to 400,000 at this point. A hastily thrown operation in the end days of Washington, D.C. They throw this operation together. They put them in the bunker in Florida, and they're trying to figure out a solution. They're running out of chemicals and supplies and fresh specimens. And the military clashes. It's like the military clashes with the scientists. And it's just great. It's freaking great. That scene in the mess hall where Captain Rhodes tells Sarah that she needs to sit down or else she's going to be shot is so tense. It's just so, you're biting your nails. And so it just bums me out that Glenn couldn't see it for what it was. But again, I can understand why he would be upset. I would be let down too. The original concept for Day was supposed to be so huge, so big. As it turns out, Day of the Dead is one of George Romero's favorite films. Chris says, Day of the Dead is one of the goriest movies of its time. How does he not? Yeah, dude, exactly. Like, what a disconnect. Like, come on, dude. It's so gory and awesome. The end, Joe got him. Joe got him. Come on, Bub. Yeah, Bub is a great zombie. Bub is like, he's kind of like Frankenstein. In the sense of like Logan and Frankenstein. He's like kind of this, he's sort of like a tragic monster. I really like Bub a lot.